Have you ever stopped to look at the effect that holding yourself back actually has on the areas of your life and in your day-to-day life? Hey, my name is Nathan Hawken, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about the devastating effects that have in your life when you hold yourself back in so many different ways. Now, if you're new to the channel, please like this video, leave a comment if it's resonating with you, and of course, subscribe and set the notifications on to receive any extra videos and content that I put out. And if you're looking for a little bit of extra help, I've just released a new ebook called The 5 Steps to Self-Belief Mastery. If you're struggling with your own self-belief and self-confidence, that's available for a download just below this video right here. Now, a big area that I challenge a lot of the people I work with and a lot of the people that I aren't working with, like yourselves who are watching this, is to have a look, or at least start to realize the impact that it has on your life when you hold yourself back. Because there is a path of devastation behind you when you do it, and there's an even bigger path of devastation in your future when you do it as well. It doesn't happen very often when people take the time to actually sit down and start to think about, you know what, this is what's actually happened as a result of me not taking this action or me not doing this thing. And when they do it, it can be very, very confronting. Because when you look at what could have been or what was and maybe isn't where it needs to be now, that can be hard to swallow. That can be really hard to swallow. And I'll probably warn you that if you're not doing that right now, this video could be a little bit confronting for you. And so if we think about it for a minute, let's look at some times when maybe this applies to you, or maybe there's something different which I haven't covered. But when you start talking about things that you're holding yourself back in, or someone will hold themselves back in, maybe it's a time that you didn't speak up. You know, maybe there was something that was said or something that was done, and you bit your tongue, you held yourself back, and you didn't say what needed to be said. And the result ended up being quite a negative impact on whatever the situation was. Maybe you stopped short on a particular project or task that you know you had to do. And trust me, I've done that myself many, many times, where I've just stopped short. It's like, I've done so well, and then I just stop, where I'm just like 3 feet from gold. Now that's a reference to Think and Grow Rich if you've read that book. But stopping 3 feet from gold, or stopping short on a particular project and just not getting it done, or not getting it done in a way which would be so much better, like putting your all into it. Maybe that's been something like you. Maybe you're just constantly choosing the path of least resistance. Now, as human beings, we're wired that way. We are wired to find the easiest possible route, but unfortunately, that's not where the payoff is. You know, the payoff is through the hard work and actually pushing ourselves and growing. But maybe you're just someone who consistently chooses the path of least resistance, and it's not getting you to where you want to be. Or maybe you just give justifications for all your excuses. Like, you know, when you don't do something, or you don't even start to do something, or you're holding yourself back, and you're just consistently giving yourself justifications for the excuses that you give yourself. It's like, well, I didn't do this because of X, or there's these circumstances happening out of the world which are out of my control, so why am I going to do any extra work? You know, things like that. Maybe even just never got started on something good. You know, something where you're like, you know what, I want to try this business, or I want to create something, I want to get out of working, or I just want to set up a foundation, or whatever it is. Maybe you got this massive goal, maybe it's just a small goal, but you never actually got yourself started. You held yourself back from getting started because you gave yourself these excuses, or you gave yourself these reasons. Now, these are just a few examples of what I'm talking about, and you know yourself some of the areas where you hold yourself back consciously, and there's going to be a bunch of the ones where you hold yourself back unconsciously. And even though you know that you've been holding yourself back, or you've held yourself back in the past, have you ever actually looked at the destruction that has actually created? You know, sometimes you're just going to feel down or bad in a particular way, or maybe there's this consistent pattern of you not doing what you need to do, or stopping short, or whatever it is. And you know you feel bad about it, but have you actually looked at the destruction that causes and what could have been as a result? But most of the time, we don't actually realize that there are major consequences of those things, but we have no idea about them. And this is the unconscious reason why we feel particular negative emotions, like we feel bad, like we feel guilt for not doing things, or we feel sadness, or maybe we feel fear, or whatever it is. But this is part of the reason why. Like, we just feel that way, but we don't understand where it's coming from. And this also determines your actions that you take in the future, because it sets up a new pattern. Because if you are consistently holding yourself back, stopping short, not doing things, then what do you think is going to happen in the future? It's the exact same thing. That's why sometimes we talk about the compound effect, right? Where what you do now has a ripple effect that will really affect things in the future. And so it's the same type of thing. You start living an unfulfilled life because you don't do something here, or you haven't done things in the past. And then and then you look around and you're like, well, why is my life like this? How did I end up in this state? Why don't I have the money that I want to make? And that's all happening because you're not looking at the big impact that all these at times where you've held yourself back are having on your life. So, what do you do about it? What can we actually do about these situations or these times which have happened in the past and may happen in the future? The first thing you need to do is start looking at everything. Start noticing the times when you hold yourself back and realize the impact that that's having. This doesn't necessarily have to take a long time, and it doesn't have to be a deep meditative reflection of your life and how you are today or anything like that. It's as simple as noticing when you hold yourself back, and you know when you do, but just noticing it like, right, what effect is this going to have in my life moving forward? What is actually going to happen, or what's not going to happen if I don't take this action? What's going to happen if I do take this action? Whatever it may be. But you have to just stop for a moment and think, right, what are the consequences? What's going to happen? Is this part of a pattern from my past? Now, by the way, this can be uncomfortable as hell. This may not feel good because it may bring up things that you haven't done in the past. But you know what? That's okay, because this is how we grow and this is how we learn. We've got to face the demons of the past and the things that we've screwed up on before in order to make sure that we're not doing them in the future. We're not doing them as much. So it's very, very rarely that we do them at all. So it could be very uncomfortable, but you know what? True honesty with yourself is exactly how we conquer these demons. And so you got to be honest with yourself. You got to think about it for a moment. Even if it takes a couple of minutes, sit down and write them down. Pull out your phone, leave a message to yourself, or pull out a notes and just start typing away and just put them down. Because once you can actually notice what's going on, once you can actually start thinking about, right, this is what I've done. I've held myself back. I knew I stopped short, or I knew I should have spoken up at that board meeting or whatever it was, and think, right, what effect is this having on my life right now? What effect is that going to have on my life moving forward? If I didn't speak up at a meeting, then maybe that's going to lessen my chances of getting a promotion later on. Things like that. What effect and consequences are these going to have on my life right now? And more importantly, have a little look back. Where are other times where I didn't speak up, or I didn't put my hand up, or I just held myself back? How has that affected my life today? Write those down, because what this does is once you start thinking about it, once you start writing it down, you're starting to connect with your unconscious. Like you're forming a conscious and unconscious agreement and awareness, so you know it, you know what's going on. You can see it now. You can understand more at a deeper level what you're actually doing in your life and how it's affecting you. This will start to show you the pattern that you're currently running. Like maybe there's habits that you didn't realize are habits that you're actually doing. But when you think about it, when you acknowledge it and you start writing it down, you're starting to create a new awareness of what's actually going on inside your mind. And once you realize the patterns, once you start to see what you're doing, then you can start to break them. Then you can start to realize, okay, cool, this is not working for me because I don't have what I want, or there's something more that I want. Now I can see the pattern. I do this every single time. Makes sense now, because when I look at other things in the past, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That I did the same thing then, and I did the same thing at another time, and I did the same thing at another time. I've just done it again today. Right, what's the pattern? Once you notice the pattern, then you can start to break them. And then breaking the pattern is the next challenge, which I will definitely cover in another video. So I hope this has helped you at all. If you've resonated with this, if you're like, you know what, Nathan, makes total sense. I can see the patterns now. I know what I'm doing. Leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts and feelings. And of course, if you're looking for a little bit of extra help, I've just created a new ebook called 5 Steps to Self-Belief Mastery. You can download that in the description below. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.